Just two Madden games feature in their M's with back-to-back 94 and 95 editions. Very familiar look and feel to the FIFA games, albeit a different shaped ball obviously, but graphically these are nicely presented that capture the fun of American football well enough. Apparently Madden 95 was the first in the series to feature black players, but also had quite a few more options, rules, plays, etc. included. Things like players could be injured, substitutions and so on. Whilst I quite like the look of 94, 95 is probably regarded as the better game and where the franchise started to improve. And as far as I'm aware, that was it for Madden games in the PAL region on the Super Nintendo. Okay, let's get the bad out of the way real quick. The music in this game sucks arse. It gets pretty annoying pretty quickly. Don't say I didn't warn you. The game, well, I had no clue what I was doing really. Seemingly kidnapping cute monster types and dropping them into an unknown demise, but yeah, I quite like this. The graphics are cutesy and well designed, the gameplay movement isn't half bad, and I've certainly played a ton of far worse platformers than this one. I mean, it's not award winning, but not terrible either. But I should probably read the instructions though. Capcom arcade port time now with Magic Sword. Blimey, that's a mouthful. First up, I like the idea that level progression is climbing the tower 50 odd stories up to reach the end boss, and if you fancy a challenge off the bat you can skip the first 32 levels, which is nice. Lots of power-ups and even a second player, albeit CPU controlled, can be obtained by finding keys and unlocking the doors. I mean, it's not the best looking Capcom game, but I had heaps of fun with this one and I will definitely return to it. Known as the Skins game in North America and major title in the PAL region, here we have an okay looking golf game that's pretty easy to pick up and play. No swingometer or similar fancy hit method here, just press your B button at the right time on a weird swing meter thing and that's it. I birdied my first hole, so I would say this is probably on the easier side.
Nice on!
A quick shout out to Manchester United Championship Soccer, which would be up next, but we played the German Lothar Matthäus version in a previous video, which is the same game, different name, so we move on. And move on we do with Mario's Time Machine. Now, is this the earliest known precursor to clickbait? Ooh, look, a Mario game. Mario is fun, right? Well, no, not always. Part of the Discovery series, more on that in a moment, this is a shoddily put together educational piece with Mario included to lure the unsuspecting kid into making a regretful purchase. I spent 20 minutes trying to figure out the facts needed to return Newton's apple, to then think I was going to go there only to spend what felt like an eternity in this Mode 7 hell before I eventually waved the white flag and went off to stick pins in my eyes, which was, quite frankly, more enjoyable than this garbage. And yes, we have another in the Discovery series. Mario is missing, which is a sham, because poor old Luigi actually gets his own game, only for it not even to have his name in it, which feels bad. But this is another educational title that is just as boring, and surely if you've played this and Time Machine, you would have lost all faith in our friendly little plumber. I spent most of my time wandering around, having not a clue what it was I was supposed to be doing, but at least the freaky non-Mario world looking NPCs was slightly interesting. Who needs expensive flashy computers when you can just attach a SNES mouse to your console and load up Mario Paint, which, although I didn't really get to grips with on any of the animation stuff, is a pretty cool paint package of its time that I probably spent a little longer than I should have done playing. Lots of choices, quite a bit of depth, a little learning curve, and even a built-in fly squat game, which is random, but compared to the previous Mario games here, it's pretty decent. Marko's Magic Football was not available in North America, or me for a bit actually, as this was a bugger to hunt down, but here we are. And was it worth it? Well, in short, no. I quite like the cutesy graphics, like this bicycle riding copper, but the mechanic with the ball is really clunky and not very intuitive at all. It often did not go where I wanted and didn't feel like a skill issue, just a crap game one. North America, you got away with one here. Big Marvel character sprites, very cool graphics, levels that you can choose in which order you like, and it's all by Capcom. What's not to love? Well, it's a little framey, and for the first 30 minutes I played, I just felt like I was walking a bit, smashing a wall, walking a bit, smashing a wall, defeating some bad guys, smashing a wall. Yeah, you get the idea. I do kind of like it though, but I'm not entirely sure why. More Mode 7 goodness in what feels like Pilot Wings with guns. Yeah, and I quite like this one too. The nice story involvement in the menu system is cool. You can upgrade your stuff and choose or negotiate your contracts, which is also cool. And providing you have a ton of homing missiles, the gameplay is kind of fun too. Yes, like all SNES FPS titles, it's going to be a bit dated looking now, but I really like this one and it's certainly worthy of your time. And like buses, we have another Mechwarrior turn up, but this time with a Desert Strike type vibe, which lends itself to the SNES capabilities more than the previous offering. Yes, this game is tough, but it is loads of fun too. I really enjoy these types of games, and this one didn't disappoint, even though I was useless at it for the short time playing. Although I liked Mechwarrior, I would probably choose this one over it every day of the week. Interesting one this, as I always thought this was just a 16-bit home computer title and not a console one, but here we are. Now, I've not played this before and it's another one I can't really give justice to in this short snippet review, but this is one of those you are a god getting your people to build stuff, attack other villages, progress through the ages affairs that were popular at the time. It did feel like a pretty poor port though. The controls were not very intuitive to the SNES controller and the whole thing didn't blow me away. But that's not to say if you like these types of games you might like this one, but you definitely need the instructions though.
We've won!
Right, I've got to hold my hands up now and be honest with you lot, Mega Man games pass me by. I've no idea why, but just the sheer volume of games possibly scared me. I mean, this is the first of 4 games here, and this one's in a different series to the others, so surely I can be forgiven? Well, maybe not, as quite frankly, I really missed out not playing this. I mean, just look at it. It's gorgeous in that pixel perfect way I loved to look at back then, and still do today. It plays great, it's got fairly simple controls, and it's quite a challenge too. I really enjoyed my short time with this one, and I will be returning to not just this one, but as we seemingly move on here, also the excellent X series of Mega Man games too. First up is Megaman X, which feels more of the same as number 7 in terms of looks, fantastic play, and how blessed am I not to have played these, and these being brand new games for me to play in 2024. I'm only scratching the surface with this short time play for this video, but I can tell I'm really going to enjoy these. The same for X2, and in X3 I even played as a character called Zero, which is a lovely looking sprite, which once again has more of the same as the others. What a smashing set of games that had me genuinely excited to play some more. Super Scope time, which hinders a review slightly as I don't have one, but the mouse suffices on my emulator here, which I think makes the game a little easier as I didn't die until the final boss. Still, great fun and my favourite Super Scope game so far. The graphics are sublime and it all moves at a fair old pace too, making it exciting to play. I mean, it almost makes me want to buy a Super Scope just to play it as it was meant to be. Fantastic. Flippin' heck, these M-title games just keep getting better. This is like SimCity meets Mechwarrior 3050. Take 2 adjacent islands, a bunch of different weapons, and try and destroy the enemy bases. This is lovely to look at and great fun to play, and this is the reason why I loved my SNES. It's a shame it's only one player, but it might have been too hard to implement that. I instantly wanted to hate this. I mean, come on, a basketball related platformer that is just cashing in on the Michael Jordan brand by sticking him in a generic platformer. What am I going to like about this? Well, the controls are a bit janky and take a bit of getting used to, but I gotta say, I didn't hate it. The basketball weapon mechanic is kind of fun as you go around unlocking doors to rescue your teammates. Yes, it's all a bit ludicrous, but in reality that doesn't matter, as it pains me to say it. It all kind of works. Yay, a Mickey game, which, joking aside, are usually not terrible. And this one sort of sits in the middle, but leaning towards the actually pretty good camp also. I mean, firstly, look at the visuals. I'm only on the first level here, which is a Steamboat Willie level, so very much black and white, but it's strikingly good. The animations, backdrops, everything here are some of the best graphics I've seen on the SNES. It's certainly a puzzle platformer though, which isn't my favourite genre, and the momentum movement isn't the best. It also has loading times, which feels odd on a SNES, but if these sort of games are your thing, then you should definitely check this one out. Another game series up next with Micro Machines, seen here, and Micro Machines 2 Turbo Edition to follow. Starting with the original game then, and nothing says 4-player fun more than Micro Machines, even if you don't have the multi-adapter thing, as apparently you can even share the controller, but I've never tried that so can't comment how possible that is. As top-downs go, this is probably more fun looking than it is to play at times, especially on your own, as it's easy to get stuck or experience frustrating deaths. But have some mates round and it really shines. Number 2 feels like more of the same with extra cars, tracks and tournaments / options, and would probably be the one I would play more just because of those reasons. These games epitomise the 16-bit era for me though, so will always be games I'd go back to. Might and Magic 2 by Elite Systems is another RPG that I can't really give justice to, but can say that I've played it, which is a tad of a stretch when all I've done really is move around a bit, hit some walls which are solid apparently, and met some of the locals. It's a first-person RPG, which is not really my thing, but in terms of being responsive and looking okay, it ticks those boxes at least. Now, I'm not the guy who can tell you one Power Ranger from another, so I don't know how closely these games follow the show, but I do know if they are any good or not. Starting with the first of the 3, and this is just a walk right and destroy everything in your way affair. You start as the character before morphin time happens, which if you are a female character makes you suddenly rather butch. It's quite nice in the way you can interact with other objects, and it was easy to control for the most part, although the special move can be used when you don't want it to. Sure, there are a lot of beat 'em ups that are done better than this one, but it's actually not that bad. Then we have the movie inspired game, which is pretty much more of the same, well, the same sprites anyway. 2-player, which is cool, and some sort of power meter thing, which I only worked out when it was too late. It also has a sort of depth choice where you can choose the road or pavement, and that isn't that bad either. I found it tougher than the previous one, but it all moves and looks as good. And then we have Power Rangers Street Fighter Alternative with Fighting Edition. Again, with the others, it's something done 100 times, but at least it's done pretty well here. I managed to beat a few of the opponents in the story mode and pull off a few moves, so that's something. And it all moves nicely and looks great too. So to summarise, these 3 games came off better than I thought they would, so if you fancy some morphin time, look no further than here. If this tripping menu screen doesn't give you an indication to what you've let yourself into, I don't know what does. This fast, frenetic Sonic the Hedgehog on drugs is simply awful. The whole rotating level gimmick doesn't work and just makes you want to shut your eyes and make it go away. It's really unpleasant. Well, it was to this 50-year-old anyway. It's really not for me, but if you like that just stepped off a waltzer ride at the fair feeling, then knock yourself out. And here we have another trilogy in the wow, this hasn't aged well series of Mortal Kombat. Not much to say really, except the first one was pretty much done better everywhere else, looking at you Sega, and each iteration probably improves on the previous one in graphics and options. The gameplay is so stiff and doesn't vary much. Also, I suck balls at this one now. I never used to, but I've forgotten all the moves, or perhaps had it on the Mega Drive, which was easier with less buttons. I can't remember or care really, as this was not a nice nostalgia trip regardless. Mr. Do is possibly the strangest game in the SNES Power set here, with Black Pearl's arcade port of the 1982, yes, 1982 arcade game. Yes, we've had arcade ports before, but these were lumped together on greatest arcade hits type thing, not seemingly pushed out as a SNES title standing on its own some 13 years after the arcade release. I'd love to know the reasons behind this one. As far as the game goes, it's Mr. Do. It seems to be arcade perfect to me, but then again, why wouldn't it be, bearing in mind the superior power of the SNES compared to the original Mr. Do arcade board. And where do we go after Mr. Do? Well, to Mr. Nutz, of course. Here we are playing a squirrel who can collect nuts to throw and coins to progress in this platformer by numbers affair. The soundtrack on this one gets lauded if you read people's experience of the game, but honestly I found it fairly annoying. I do agree with everyone suggesting that the game looks lovely though, because quite frankly it does. If you like these platformers then you might like this one, but it was all a bit too generic for me, with a few nice features like turning the difficulty down for 1, which this 50-year-old gamer always likes. Now I've got to start by saying I was obsessed with Beavis and Butt-Head back in the day. It was perfect trash TV at that point in my life. I used to find it so funny and was pretty much addicted to it for a bit. The game though, well, it passed me by, and I'm not sure why, as I reckon this might have been a worthy rental from Blockbusters at least. As for the game itself, yeah, it's actually pretty okay. It does feel like they have the essence of the series here. I like the graphics and the soundtrack, but underneath it's a pretty shallow walk right and hit things in what feels like forever. I reckon it's probably more fun in co-op mode though, and I certainly would have enjoyed this back in the day. It has a password system at least, and for the first boss fight I encountered it was really lots of fun. So yeah, I might actually return. And our final game in the M's is a unique one, because yep, over here in Powerland we got Mystic Quest Legend, which feels like a bunch of words thrown together. In North America, you got Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which makes more sense as a spin-off from that successful series. But here we are anyways, and I gotta say, I really like this, and here is why. I've never been much of an RPG player. I've always just struggled to get into them. If I'd have stumbled across this game first though, that might have been very different. This is kind of an RPG for beginners or kids if you like. Notoriously easy and very by the numbers. It's a great introduction to the genre that I respect. Hardcore RPG fans might scoff at such basic gameplay, but for me this is perfect and something I will definitely invest more time in for sure. And that wraps up the M's. I need to lie down now, but before I do, here's my favourites from this lot that I will take forward to my final. Please let me know your favourites in the comments, and also the ones you plain hated too. But for me, the ones going forward will be Magic Sword, Marvel Superheroes War of the Gems. I've no real idea why, but I just really liked it. Mechwarrior 3050, all of the Mega Man games because I couldn't choose, Metal Kombat Falcon's Revenge, Metal Marines, MTV's Beavis and Butt-Head, and that's probably just because I loved Beavis and Butt-Head, and Mystic Quest Legend. So, on to the ends next, which if you like sport games you might enjoy. If not, then I'll see you on the O's. That's all for now. See you on the next one. Cheers.